Hello, my beautiful friends. Thank you for joining me today. I have some hard things to talk about. I just felt like this was the right time. It has recently, well, not really recently, well, it's recently. I'm already getting myself all discombobulated, but that's okay. We'll get through this. I was recently put in a position that made me have to deal with this thing that I've been putting off for a few years. Many years, actually, if I really want to get honest with myself. And I think I have a little bit more clarity on the situation. I feel more, I don't know if the word I'm looking for is in control or steady. I don't know. I'm just kind of trying to sort it all out. But I had a message that came into my mind that helped me realize that I need to say this. And I don't know who needs to hear it. It's a hard thing to hear. I hid it for a long time out of, I wouldn't say respect, maybe fear, maybe embarrassment. But I know now that hiding this is what the people who were manipulating me wanted, not what I wanted. I was raised in a very narcissistic family. I'm not going to name people's relationships or say what side of my family it was, out of respect for them, because many of them either have not awakened to the issue or are hopefully healing, or at least trying to, maybe. Anyway, if any of them ever watch this, I don't know if they would even know who I'm speaking about, so I'm just gonna say it. But my biggest abuser was, well, I lived in an extended family with grandparents, aunt, and parent. So that's about as far as I will go. I won't say, which side was the perpetrator. My biggest abuser was my aunt, who has actually passed on. So I had a lot of forgiveness to go work through in that respect. And I want to touch on, before I continue, you will hear a lot about forgiveness. And I want you to know that forgiveness is not for the person who hurt you. It is only for you. You forgiving releases your heart from anger and hate and pain and resentment. Those things, holding on to them is detrimental to your health. It will hurt you more than it will ever hurt that person. They don't care. That's the long and short of the whole thing. Your abuser most likely is not aware that they have hurt you, or that they were hurting you, or that you're still hurting, and they don't care. If you tell them, because I've tried that too, they will tell you that you're lying, or that you're crazy, or that they never did that, or that they sometimes they will say that they didn't intend it, which I truly believe. The thing about abuse, especially narcissistic abuse, is these people are stuck in their own heads. They need something from you, and the only way of getting it is to manipulate you and break you down, basically. That's where the abuse comes in. A lot of times it's not even physical, which is it was harder for me. I almost, and I don't mean to offend anybody who has been physically abused, but I would almost rather have the physical abuse than the mental abuse and emotional abuse. For me, those go on in eternity in my mind, so it's really hard. Clearly, I'm still working through a lot of things, and that's okay. I forgive myself for expressing emotion. That is one of the things that you will not be allowed to do in a narcissistic family. Emotions are going to always be downplayed. You will be called overly sensitive, or a drama queen, or dramatic, or seeking attention, a crybaby. The list goes on and on. You know what they called you. And I know that a lot of this is going to be triggering to a lot of people who watch this, and people use the word trigger in the wrong way a lot of times. Psychologists actually, and I want to get out of the way that I am not a psychologist, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a psychiatrist. I do practice life coaching, and I'm still really learning. I have not branched out to work on others because I'm still working on myself. And there are a lot of people in life coaching who will tell you that it's fine, just go, but I don't feel comfortable doing that. I'm still learning, and I don't want to hurt anybody unintentionally by pushing myself out there too soon. But triggers, anyway, back to what I was talking about. Triggers should not be avoided. They're hard, but they show you what you need to work on. A lot of people make the big mistake of avoiding things that trigger them, and that is the wrong thing to do. That whole trigger warning hurrah thing that went on for a long time, it's probably still going on. I don't get on social media much, and I don't really watch news or anything like that. Those are all very damaging things and manipulative things. But yeah, you shouldn't avoid triggers. You should embrace them. It's going to be hard. But the more you embrace them, the less they get to you. And you get to learn the things that you need to work on personally. And that's from psychologists. You can look it up. I'll try to link some of the things that I've read over the years, but honestly, I've read so many things that have helped me. It's hard for me to keep them all unless they had a profound impact on my life. It's hard to keep them all up in here. I wrote down the parts. I have extensive journals everywhere where I write down things because that's how I learn the best. But yeah, try to embrace your triggers and find out why you're feeling that way instead of avoiding them, because all that's going to do is make you shove those feelings way down deep, and you may never unlock them. And narcissistic families do that to us. They force us to hide our feelings because they make them uncomfortable, and they don't like feeling uncomfortable. They also don't like it when you are happy, and they will act out in different ways depending on who your family is to bring you down, because they can't deal with any kind of emotions, be it mad, sad, happy, glad, indifferent. You need to be reacting to whatever they need to. It's a it's a weird game. It's a weird, like, mind game. And you can imagine that growing up that way as a small child, you don't know up from down, left from right, good from bad. You get a lot of trust issues. I didn't know how to trust myself or others. So I tend, my own personal defense mechanism, I guess you could call it, is to be completely independent. I don't like asking for help, and I will not ask for help to my detriment, like crawling on the ground kind of, you know. Yeah, it's really like, I don't like to ask for help because I don't like to be vulnerable, is the best word, because that makes me subject to other people's garbage. And as a result of that, I've had a lot of hard times. And a lot of people just think that I'm, you know, irresponsible, which I was because of how, you know, I was raised, or stubborn, which I also am. Those things are true. And it was always hard to admit that. I wanted to get defensive and lash out when people would point those things out to me. And it was actually a person who really cared about me who pointed all those things out and made me see them. And it was a hard journey. And that happened in 2018. For right now, it's 2022, so it's been, what, like almost 5 years. It was in June of 2018 that everything came to head. At that time, I was an atheist, and I was what I would consider gothic. I was basically living as a child. That was also a result of my situation. I got stuck around 12 to 13. My grandmother died, and was in the process of dying from cancer when I was 12. She got sick when I was, I think, 11. It was kind of a blur. That whole time. If I go back and look at the year, I could tell you, and I would know exactly how old I was, but it's really not that important. I got stuck right between, I would say, 11 and 13. My caregiver was not available to me. I have talked to this person about it, and I get a lot of excuses. I understand that they were under a lot of stress, but I was their child. And I was basically left alone during the time that my grandmother was in the hospital and dying. And I was expected to raise, or watch rather, foster children that we had in our home, who were subsequently also abused by my family in terrible ways. I really didn't know what to do about it. Anything that was said or done to protect the child was also dished out to you, or me, or anybody who said anything. So it was really hard being a little kid and watching other little kids get abused and know that you could be in line for that. So sometimes I said nothing, and honestly, as I got older, sometimes I participated, which made me feel horrible and guilty. I didn't physically abuse them, but I did, you know, make fun of them, or just neglect them or mistreat them or ignore them, mostly ignore them. That was my way of dealing with it, was to mostly ignore them. But if my aunt, who was the main perpetrator of the abuse, was in the room and making fun of them or something like that, you were expected to do the same. And I really had to struggle a lot with those feelings of guilt and shame, and for being able to forgive myself for that. Yeah, that was hard. My story isn't as relevant, and I don't really want to get that deep into it. Just know that my family was narcissistic, and my main point for making this video, because I don't want it to be terribly long so that nobody watches it, or gets triggered to the point where they can't watch it anymore. I have never had acknowledgement from my abusers that they abused me, and I probably never will, and that's something that I've come to terms with. I accepted the fact that my primary caregiver was not able to give me what I needed, and I have been able to go and find it on my own and give it to myself, which is honestly all that you can do. You can spend the rest of your life arguing and fighting and just hashing it out over and over again, and all you're going to get is a lot more pain. The best thing that you can do is acknowledge what has been going on. Do research. There are so many videos out there. I will link some of them that helped me the most in the description. Some of the ongoing people that I watch that have helped me understand what I'm going through in a way that is not harmful to the other side. Because what you have to understand about narcissistic abuse is that these people were also abused, and that's the hard part of dealing with it. It's a chain of events. It is, I've been trying to figure out where it maybe started from, but unfortunately the narcissistic family is secretive. They hide it, and they expect you to hide it. I will be hated by some of my family if they were to ever watch this, for just coming out and saying this is what happened, because we are taught to, from a very young age, that the things that go on in the house are secret, and outside the house we are to project perfection. And I was the scapegoat of the family, the black sheep, if you will. And reason that I was because I wasn't very good at hiding my, I'm a highly sensitive person and an empath. So for me, hiding emotions, as you can tell, I was already breaking down. It's nearly impossible. So I had to be made the enemy of the family, and crazy, and any other horrible thing that you could, I had to be discounted, basically. Anything that I said had to be able to be discounted by them. Oh, she's just insane, or she's just dramatic, she has issues, all of the normal suspects. And I grew up believing that. I was overly emotional and dramatic and not right. So those are the things that they will do to you if you step out of line. And it's really, you'll see a lot of things, especially what I link below, that talks about the cult of the narcissistic family, and they truly are cult-like. You get a hierarchy, you get people who are in control. That was my aunt. In my own bubble of the family, she was in control, and you did not step out of line around her, or you paid the consequences, which was abuse. And I laugh. I'm not doing it to discount. I'm either gonna laugh or cry, and I'd rather laugh. You will get discounted and dismissed, all of your feelings. So you will start to doubt yourself, and you will lose trust in yourself, which erodes your self-confidence and your self-esteem. and you will end up with none. So I highly suggest the first thing that you do after you learn that your family was narcissistic is read the 6 pillars of self-esteem and do the exercises that Nathaniel Branden talks about. I did it for 2 years, and I'm gonna go back and start doing it again, because as you progress and learn, you're going to kind of go back and forth with healing. You'll be really good sometimes, you'll be really not so good sometimes. And I don't like the word bad, because there is no bad healing. You're gonna take some steps forward, you're gonna go back. It's a process, and honestly, it's a lifelong process if you really want to heal. You can bury your head in the sand and say, no, 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 this is not my issue, and keep on going. It's not going to help you, and it's not going to help your family. Honestly, my sibling we spoke, and the whole reason that I'm making this video is because I was asked to speak to my primary caregiver about an issue that they had with their own abuse as a child, which I understood, and it's honestly the only reason that I entertained the idea of speaking to them. And I very reluctantly, now I had been no contact for maybe a year, mostly no contact. I mean, I would occasionally, I did not contact them, either of them, any of them. They did contact me periodically, as narcissistic people will, and I'm not saying that either of them are narcissists with NPD. We all have narcissistic traits. I've been working on my own, and we all are very manipulative, which I also work on daily. And I was asked to speak to this person about their abuse, and I was asked to pretend that they were not my parent by my sibling and pull myself out of the personal situation, which was not really fair to me, but I tried. And I did not do it for my caregiver, my parent. I did it for my sibling, actually, and partially for myself, because I wanted to know. And as you can imagine, it did not end well. I'm not going to go into details because it's irrelevant. It's all personal, but as you can tell, when I am thinking and nervous, I rock my chair. It's something I did as a child. It's a coping mechanism. It's a way of soothing yourself. Sorry about that. I pulled myself together again. This just happened a couple of days ago, so it's still kind of a open wound, if you will. Where was I? Oh yeah, the details of our conversation are irrelevant. I went into the whole situation. I read one of my favorite books. Hang on, I'll get it for you. This helped me a ton, and I went through it, and I wrote down notes, actually, before I spoke to this person. My notes were, I am not responsible for solving this problem. Listen, 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 understand, validate. I do not have the power to make anything all better for anybody. I am not responsible for solving the problems of everybody else. And if you can keep those things in your mind, you will start to heal. When you're listening to people, when you're talking to people, you know, just listen to them, just let them talk. I got through to listening to this person, and I asked questions to, you know, let them know that I was listening and understanding and empathizing, which I was, honestly. You know, it was a tough conversation and hard to tell. And this person was telling me that their parent was, they were not able to go to their parent for comfort or even to tell them what was happening after the first time, because this person was condemned and made to feel like it was their fault, which is not. Your abuse is never your fault, ever, no matter what. And I understood then. This helped me, this whole conversation helped me a lot, even though it didn't end the way I wanted it to. Because honestly, I got triggered, and I think the vulnerability that this person was sharing made me want to be vulnerable with them and open up. And this person asked me to tell them what they had done to hurt me, which can of worms I did not want to go into. I really and honestly should have just hung up the phone at that point. We spoke for 4 hours and 45 minutes, and it did not truly break down until the very end of the conversation. We were both frazzled and had too much, I think. And yeah, it was too long. I should have ended it a long time before then, but yeah, I didn't, for whatever reason. I know, you know, my inner child wanted to be heard and was feeling a kinship, because this person was also stuck as a child, a much younger child than me, probably about 5 or 6, which I've known most of my life. But I was always expected to give care to this person ever since I was a child and make them feel better. And that's why I had to write those down, that I am not responsible for this person. This person is almost 70 years old, and I'm still expected to care for them. I'm 48 years old, and I'm done. I told my sibling that a long time ago, that I'm not caring for this person anymore. They are an adult, and it's up to them. That sounds harsh, but it's what I had to do. I had to set that boundary, because that's another issue with abusive, narcissistic families, is there are no boundaries, no such thing with anything. And if you enforce them, you will be hated and made the enemy. And that was what I was doing. That started escalating things. Was I started enforcing my boundaries and, you know, saying this is not how I'm going to be treated. So yeah, that ended with my sibling being told that I was mean to them. And I'm laughing because that's how I'm told that about my sibling. They are told that about me. We've always been played against each other. That's another thing narcissists will do for attention, is it's like a game. Who can give me the most love, attention, whatever, and you're expected to play that game. I never was good at it because, yeah, for whatever reason, I detached myself a lot. That was my defense mechanism, was to detach and go inside and withdraw. So, as you can imagine, my sibling sent me a not so nice message the next morning. Now, I was already very raw and I was very hurt by the message. But my work has allowed me to take in the things that my siblings said to me and know where they were coming from. I didn't believe that they were coming from a place of hurt. They were coming from a place of wanting to heal. So that's how I took them. I took them as the truth and this person being vulnerable with me, and they told me some things that I had done that hurt them, which is an incredible first step to opening up and healing this issue. And I acknowledged those things. I accepted them and I apologized for them. Because the worst thing you can do is deny, get defensive, and I have always done that, and it's a trait of my family. When you tell the things that hurt you, they get defensive, say you're lying, say they didn't do that, or they didn't mean it, and you're just expected to accept it and let it go. And this is the issue that I've had with my parent, is I'm not just letting it go, forgetting about it, and forgiving them. I've forgiven them the things that I can, and I honestly gave this person a roadmap. I told them point blank, like I stole myself and did something that I have never done before, and said, this is what I need to hear from you. I need to hear that you accept that this was the experience that I had with you. Whether you meant to do the things that you did or not, they hurt me. You understand that they hurt me, and you are sorry that they hurt me. And this person was not even capable of doing that. And that was painful, but I kind of knew it. And I have to preface with, I have recently, well, it's been a year almost. Next month will be a year since I joined the church. I'm not an atheist anymore. I was one for most of my life. I was angry with God because of the people that I was raised by. They called themselves Christians. I now know that people do not represent God, even in the church. The church that my family went to was very abusive. Verbally, they would tell you that you're a sinner and you're going to hell. And being from an abusive family, that was detrimental to me as a child. I was very young, 7, 8. I think I decided I was leaving all of religion when I was 13. After my grandma died, I figured I had been abandoned by this God that everybody spoke of. And I turned to Satanism first. And then I turned to witchcraft. And I dabbled in those things for a few years, but the people that associated themselves with that were not the nicest, so I wanted something that I could be more alone. I know there are solitary witches, but yeah, I just didn't, I don't know. But I eventually turned to atheism. And that felt, I could be angry, and I could be a bully, and I could hurt people, and get away with it, basically, with the other people in that community. Because as an atheist, I identified as a loner, but I really relied on the encouragement of other atheists to bully religious people into hurting them, shaming them, embarrassing them. I did all of those things. I was not a nice person. And I have apologized to a lot of the people that I have hurt in my life because of the things that I said. But I did join the church. And what actually, I'm reaching for my book, what actually brought on this healing portion was a Relief Society lesson that we had last Sunday. And it was about abuse. And I highlighted a bunch of things that it's actually the book that I had written my notes in. This is like a workbook for her. But I think it's important for you, all of you, whether you're religious or not, to know this. And this was, I cried a lot. I spent a lot of my Sunday in tears. And actually, before I read this, because I think this is going to be the end of the video for me, because I want to leave everyone with this. But please know, you don't have to be silent. You can tell. They're not going to like you. You're going to get ostracized, probably talked about, probably made the enemy. But don't be silent anymore. Get yourself strong. Get yourself healed. Make things understood that you're not going to take it anymore. Learn what boundaries are. Set them. I'll put a bunch of books. I actually have a bunch of PDFs that I will link in my description. I have a Google Drive that I shared them on, and I use these books to heal myself, and I share them for free. Actually, maybe leave me a comment and I will send you the link to it. I think that would be more, because I don't want people just randomly having access to my Google Drive. I mean, I have it in a private folder that no one, like, they can't get anything else. But yeah, I have a lot of books that were incredible to me, and at the time I was not able to afford them, and I don't want to take any. I have bought them all, consequently, and I don't want to take any. Like, I suggest if you find them helpful that you buy them to, you know, show love to the author, because I don't want them to lose any revenue. I know that's important to them and that they wrote these on for a reason, but I also know when you're healing and you've had a lot of situations in your life and you're probably down on your luck, maybe you've hit rock bottom and you don't have a lot to invest in your healing. It's one of the reasons why I have not actually ventured out and become a life coach, is because a lot of them believe that to heal you have to be able to invest in your healing, and they're talking about money because a lot of them are very expensive. To me, I invested my time and energy, and that's enough. Whatever you have to invest, whether it be money, time, energy, desire, drive, motivation, invest those things. It doesn't have to be money. So that's why I share them and just encourage you to, you know, buy the books if they resonate with you. So be out there, tell your story. Don't hide from your family anymore. You're gonna hurt them, and that's okay. You're not responsible for their feelings. If they're hurt, they need to deal with it on their own, especially if they're adults. I would say leave children out of it. I've been dealing with my own children and apologizing for the pain that I caused them. So, you know, yeah, do what you have to do to get this out and, you know, expose it. Don't let them bully or manipulate you anymore into being quiet and silent and just dealing with it. So I will leave you with this, the passages that helped me forgive my parent, and I will be talking a lot more about this on this channel. This is my healing channel, and it's going to be a little bit of crystals and a little bit of emotional healing and some Reiki, and just in general, if you don't feel like you're all there all together, This is a place where you can be able to heal and be whole again. So I'm going to read this and then I will sign off. Okay, I'm going to read this passage and that will be the end of this video. Hopefully I can get through it and not break down, because I've already read it like 5 times and I don't make it through. Alright, so I'm going to be looking down to read this, so I'll kind of bring it up a little bit. To those who are surviving, with those assurances very much in mind, I want to speak directly to those who feel as though there is no way out of their own survival story because of the trauma inflicted by the cruel actions of others. If this is your survival story, we weep with you. We yearn for you to overcome the confusion, shame, and fear, and we long for you, through Jesus Christ, to conquer. If you have experienced any kind of abuse, violence, or oppression, you may be left with the idea that these events were somehow your fault, and that you deserve to carry the shame and guilt you feel. You may have had thoughts such as, I could have prevented this. God doesn't love me anymore. Nobody will ever love me. I am damaged beyond repair. The Savior's atonement applies to others, but not to me. These erroneous thoughts and feelings may have been a barrier to seeking help from family, friends, leaders, or professionals, and so you have struggled alone. If you have sought help from those you trust, you may still be wrestling with the ideas of shame and even self-loathing. The impact of these events can remain for many years. You hope that one day you'll feel better, but somehow that day has never come. The abuse was not, is not, and never will be your fault, no matter what the abuser or anyone else may say to the contrary. When you have been the victim of cruelty, incest, or any other perversion, you are not the one who needs to repent. You are not responsible. You are not less worthy or less valuable or less loved as a human or as a daughter or son of God because of what someone else has done to you. God does not now see, nor has he ever seen you as someone to be despised. Whatever has happened to you, he is not ashamed of you or disappointed in you. He loves you in a way you have yet to discover, and you will discover it as you trust in his promises and as you learn to believe him when he says you are precious in his sight. You are not defined by those terrible things that have been done to you. You are, in glorious truth, defined by your eternal existing identity as a son or daughter of God, and by your Creator's perfect, infinite love and invitation to whole and complete healing. Though it may seem impossible, feel impossible, healing can come. And then it goes on to talk about how abuse is condemned by God. And this is the most important thing for you to understand, because we are told as children that we should love and honor our parents, and that's not always the case, as you will hear. Abusive behavior is explicitly condemned by the Lord and his prophets. There is no place for any kind of abuse, physical, sexual, emotional, or verbal, in any home, in any country, or any culture. Nothing a wife, child, or husband might do or say makes them deserve to be beaten. No one in any country or culture is ever asking for aggression or violence from someone else in authority or by someone who is bigger or stronger. Those who abuse and seek to hide their grievous sins may get away with it for a time. But the Lord, who sees all, knows the deeds and the thoughts and the intents of the heart. He is a God of justice, and his divine justice will be served. Miraculously, the Lord is also a God of mercy to the truly repentant. Abusers, including those who were once abused themselves, who confess, forsake their sin, and do all in their power to make recompense and restitution, have access to forgiveness through the miracle of the atonement of Christ. For the falsely accused, the unspeakable gravity of these accusations brings its own purgatory, but they too are blessed by the Savior's vicarious suffering for them, and the knowledge that ultimately truth will prevail. But unrepentant abusers will stand before the Lord to account for their heinous crimes. The Lord himself is crystal clear in his condemnation of abuse of any kind. But whoso shall offend one of these little ones, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck, and that he were drowned in the depth of the sea. This is what Jesus said, and this is what I will leave you with. The thief cometh not, but for to steal, and to kill, and to destroy. I am come that you might have life, that you might have it more abundantly. I know this was a lot to digest, and I hope that you take away whatever resonates with you. Lots of love, peace, and joy to all of you, and all of my love. Take care.